Hello, happiest of days teaching for you folks. I hope you guys are having an absolutely amazingly awesome day today, one of the best you've ever had in your entire life for you folks, all up and down the box. So today I am doing my next, I'm here in my new place in Connecticut, and that sort of a thing too. I've got my bookshelves here behind me, but I don't actually have my books done yet on there, and that sort of a thing too. But we're here, I'm doing my recording for you folks now. On Monday, I typically dedicate that to doing reviews of older tabletop RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons, or war games like Battletech and that sort of thing too, right? And that sort of a thing too. And so I thought it would be nice for me to knock out another one. I did finish the X series from Beckme in the early 80s from Dungeons and Dragons and that sort of a thing too, set in the plane of my star that I had done personally with X12. I actually didn't do some in between. And that sort of a thing too. I thought it would be nice for me to head back to more of the Greyhawk first edition side of things with this. And this is N1's Against the Cult of the Reptile God by Douglas Niles for you folks, right? And that sort of a thing too, right? And this is from 1982. It's the first of the N line. The N here stands for newer players and that sort of a thing too, kind of like the B line. We've already done reviews, right, and that sort of a thing for you folks. So you can check out that stuff too, right, and that sort of a thing too. We've already done that too. So this is for between levels 1 through 3, just like the previous one, and it's a party size of 4 out. And again, it's the Center Greyhawk with the first edition, and it's the first of the N series for you folks. Now this was by Douglas Niles. The art here is by Tim Truman. Truman just says, so when Douglas Niles was hired, he was given this as an assignment because the other folks just weren't able to sort of make it complete, and he completed it just a few weeks, like not even a month. So it's good stuff. I think you'll like it lots, and good stuff. And so he's actually, the combat here, just as is not easy, particularly the end boss and that sort of a thing too. It is hard, and it shows up too. Just as a heads up, you need to take it slow, steady, higher help, and that sort of a thing to go back and get healed to develop a few times. So this introduced, I have, by the way, run this as a DM and as a player too, just as a heads up. And that sort of a thing too. So I've had both experiences. So this introduces the belovedly, heavily detailed town of Orlane, which I love so much. And that sort of a thing too. You can definitely see some the Hamlet here from Gary Gygax's T1 earlier, and that sort of a thing too. It's good. I like it a lot. I love it. So basically, when you enter this town, some people there just really love you and are happy that you're there to provide some economy, help answers to their things, while others loathe you, and that sort of a thing. And so the others just really couldn't care about you one way or the other. There's this political friction, and then the town and trying to figure out what's happening and figure it out. And that sort of a thing too, I think is pretty good stuff, all that. And that sort of a thing too. There are places to explore in more of the exploration side of the things, and then a dungeon to delve into once you find it at the end, and that sort of a thing too. Okay, so here's my major issue with this right up front. There's two of these. The first is that there are key NPCs in the first section when you're in the town of Orlane that don't really have any descriptions, like stats, that sort of thing. To just as a, you definitely tell this was Douglas Niles' first module. And then second of all, it actually, once you get out, it's actually kind of just by the numbers, right? You're in a town, you're trying to figure out what's happening. Once you do, you go into a wilderness and explore, and then you find a dungeon at the end of it too, right? And that's sort of a thing too. So that's sort of so it's like a final by the numbers, if you will. No, it is hard, and you will need to have that experience too. But just that. So the place when you're in Orlane proper and you're doing all the exploring, figuring out what's happening, and that sort of a thing. I think that's a 10 out of 10, just as a heads up. But the rest of it is an 8 out of 10. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 over. Now this was the 19th ranked module of all time in the Dungeon magazine that celebrated, I think it was I don't know, it was one of the anniversaries of the game, 2030, something like that too. Just a heads up. I do like it. I think it's great. I think a 9 out of 10 is pretty good stuff and that sort of thing too, but I think Warlane really puts it to the next level. Whereas some of the ones you're outside of Warlane, I think it drops in value a little bit here and there. Just says alright, but there you are. Have you played this or run it or done both like I have, just read it a few times and I've heard about what you think about that sort of a thing too? I'd be sort of happy, to engage you with it further in the comments below, right? All up and down the blocks for you folks. Let me know what your thoughts are too. Also, like I said earlier, I try to do a lot of these actually, and that sort of a thing too. If you look over to the side, you can see, I'm not showing it to you, but you can see like maybe 10 or 12, well, it's probably a little more, it's probably more like 15 or 20 of these milk crates that have things in them, mostly D&D stuff, as well as some Battletech stuff, and then some other things here and there, like more role-playing and stuff like that too, but primarily, it's mostly D&D stuff with the occasional Battletech here thing in there too, so just heads up for you folks. Alright, but there you go, so it's definitely a passion of mine too. Love it all up and down the blocks for you folks. But there you go for you folks. And have you played against the cult of the Reptile God? Let me know what your thoughts are about in the comments below too from 1982. Alright, for you folks, there we go. I also tried to do some other reviews in addition to this of things like older things that you read in the science fiction, fantasy, and horror genres too. Like and particularly this sort of began because Gary Gygax, in his appendix N, he wrote it up in the first edition Dungeons Guide. He actually wrote up something about all of his influences and that sort of thing. I just was reading that. I thought that's very fun and that sort of thing too. So I have gone back, right, and just read a bunch of these things for this channel. Definitely sort of expanded in that sort of a thing too. And then I've also got lots of things out there like the Lovecraft mythos and H.P. Lovecraft and stuff like that too, so you can check them up all up in those blogs. I think you'll enjoy it too, right? And there you go. I also do other things like older these too. I try to do older video game reviews on Wednesday when I'm able to, although Tuesdays now are a little busier than they have been previously, just as a heads up. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to knock out recording those. And then serial Saturdays on Saturday, I would do, if I could do them, and that sort of thing to movie serials. I did watch one a couple of weeks ago, but just didn't have the time to write it up, just as heads up too. But I like that too, and I also sometimes I'll be able to do top 10s on Friday, but those typically will take longer to do, so just as a heads up. So those were what I was doing before I got my job back up and sort of thing too. But I don't know what we'll be able to do now, just as a heads up, but we'll do what we can, right? And that sort of a thing too for you folks. So there we go, all up and down the blocks for you folks, and there we are. And hopefully something in there will sound like your cup of tea. If so, not pressured. It's just a past. I'm not getting paid for this too, and I don't want you to feel like you're being pressured, right? And that sort of a thing to whatever. But if that does sound like your cup of tea, then please do all of the YouTube stuff like subscribe and hit the buttons and the bells and all that stuff too. And there we go. I hope you just found something from there. And as you can tell from these older things that I like to find these older things for them and unpack you for them. Many things that may have influenced us or things that we may not have even heard of, right? And that sort of thing too for you folks. It's even where its title comes from, which is a quote by a French philosopher, Jean Joubert, who says that to us about these things is that they kept us from reading the old stuff, right? Not that there's enough new stuff is new, but you get the idea. The new stuff is bad by default, but you get the idea. But it's standing on the shoulders of giants like Gary Gygax and his appendix. So you can check all that stuff for you folks. Alrighty, and there you go. I want to thank you so very, very much, for just taking some time out of your day and even investing and spending this time in watching my videos, right? Because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives, right? And we're pulled in so many different directions too. So back at you, spend this time with me. It's just incredibly humbling, and I really do appreciate that. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.